Hello students, today I am going to briefly describe about electron transport chain. As we all know, it is electron transport chain. So there is transfer of electrons. Why there is need for transfer of electrons? Why? To derive energy, right? So ATP is synthesized. It's an ATP synthesizing machinery. How is ATP synthesized in electron transport chain? It is with the help of these transfer of electrons. Now the question comes, from where does this electron come from? So we know that our foodstuffs contain carbohydrates, then proteins and fats, right? It gets broken down and it releases acetyl-CoA. So acetyl-CoA enters the Krebs cycle and it generates reducing equivalents. Now the carbohydrates, proteins and fats, it has one carbon skeleton and hydrogen atoms. So this carbon skeleton is removed as carbon dioxide and this hydrogen is transferred to our reducing equivalents NAD/FAD, which enters the electron transport chain to generate ATP in our body, which is essential for maintaining the energy needs. Like a 70 kilogram male, he requires around 2000 kilocalories of energy, and this much of energy is supplied by 83 kilograms of ATP. But do we have that much of amount of ATP in our body? No. At a time, we just have 250 grams of ATP in our body. Okay, so 250 grams should be converted to 83 kilogram. How? It is by recycling, and that occurs in this process of oxidative phosphorylation, which occurs in electron transport chain. So when you say oxidative phosphorylation, what is oxidative phosphorylation? It is oxidation coupled with phosphorylation. So first you should know what is oxidation. Oxidation is the loss of electrons and phosphorylation is the synthesis of ADP from ADP, that is ADP plus phosphate giving ATP. So what happens to the foodstuffs? Foodstuffs is broken down to glucose, amino acids, fats, etc., which will be broken down to acetyl-CoA, which enters the Krebs cycle, and there it donates the reducing equivalents, which enters the electron transport chain, the respiratory chain, and synthesize ATP. Now we can see how does this occur. So electron transport chain, it mainly consists of 4 large protein complexes. 4 protein complexes. And what is the site of electron transport chain? It occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane. So the reducing equivalents NAD, FAD, these are the hydrogen donors to the electron transport chain. So when you say hydrogen atom, we know that each hydrogen atom consists of 1 proton and 1 electron. So 2 hydrogen atom means it supplies 2 protons and 2 electrons. So that is the source of electrons in this electron transport chain. It is from these reducing equivalents which is generated from the oxidation of foodstuffs. Now we can see the 4 large protein complexes. So consider this as the inner mitochondrial membrane of mitochondria, and this the outer mitochondrial membrane, and this is the mitochondrial matrix, this is the intermembrane space. So we have 4 large protein complexes: complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4, and one ATP synthesizing complex, that is complex 5. So this has 2 subunits, F4 and F1. Now let's see what happens to each of these complexes. So these complexes are arranged in the increasing order of redox potential. So redox potential, it is the ability of a substance to accept electrons. Those which has very high redox potential, meaning it accepts electrons very easily. It has higher affinity for electrons, so accepts electrons easily. And oxygen is a final electron acceptor. Those which has less redox potential, it loses electrons easily. So in these complexes, the electron is transferred from complex 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that means this complex 1 has less redox potential than complex 2, and complex 2 has less redox potential than complex 3, and complex 3 has less redox potential than complex 4, and oxygen, the final acceptor of electrons, is present in complex 4, which is converted to water. Now what happens in complex 1? So the NADH, it has the lowest redox potential among others, so that enters complex 1. So NADH has received hydrogen atoms from the oxidation, and this will transfer the hydrogen atoms. So NAD plus will accept 2 hydrogen atoms and forms NADH plus H plus, and this NADH will transfer the electrons to FMN, the flavine mononucleotide, which is present in the electron chain, and it is converted to FMNH2. Now the hydrogen atoms is transferred, or the electrons are transferred to a series of iron sulfur clusters which is present in the electron transport chain. And finally what happens? This electron is transferred to one carrier. So there are 2 mobile carriers in electron chain. One is Q, the ubiquinone, our queen, and there is one another protein carrier, that is cytochrome C. So complex 1 transfer the electrons to ubiquinone. That is, if this is the inner mitochondrial membrane, this is the complex 1, NADH enters here, transfer the electrons, hydrogen atoms to FMN, through the iron sulfur clusters, and finally electron is transported to ubiquinone. So ubiquinone receives electrons from complex 1. How does this NADH enters complex 1? NADH comes from Krebs cycle, that is alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. Krebs cycle occurs in mitochondria. What is the other source of NADH? Yes, glycolysis. Glycolysis also generates NADH, right? So glycolysis also generates NADH. And how does this NADH enters mitochondria? This outer mitochondrial membrane is very permeable, but inner mitochondrial membrane is impermeable. So to transport NADH to the inner mitochondrial membrane, we require separate shuttle systems. And there are 2 shuttle systems. One is the malate aspartate shuttle, and second is the glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. So first I will explain about malate aspartate shuttle. So the oxaloacetate, which is present in cytoplasm, it is converted to malate because oxaloacetate is also impermeable to inner mitochondrial membrane, but malate is permeable. So this malate can enter the inner mitochondrial membrane. Which is the enzyme which converts oxaloacetate to malate? It is malate dehydrogenase. So on doing this process, NADH receives hydrogen atoms. And hydrogen atoms, so the malate along with the NADH, it reaches the inner mitochondrial membrane. And again, what happens in the inner mitochondrial membrane? This malate is converted back to oxaloacetate with the help of the malate dehydrogenase, and the NADH enters the complex 1. So what happens to the oxaloacetate? We know that is impermeable. So this oxaloacetate, does it enter back to Krebs cycle? No. It is transported back to cytoplasm with the help of glutamate. So there is one transamination reaction that occurs. So what does oxaloacetate plus glutamate produce? It produces aspartate and alpha ketoglutarate. This alpha ketoglutarate is brought back to the cytoplasm. with the help of aspartate shuttle. So aspartate is also permeable to the inner mitochondrial membrane, and aspartate reaches the cytoplasm, which is converted back to oxaloacetate by another transamination reaction, and oxaloacetate is regenerated. So that is the function of malate aspartate shuttle, which is used for transporting the NADH. What about glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle? So glycerol 3-phosphate, it is produced from dihydroxyacetone phosphate of glycolysis. So this dihydroxyacetone phosphate transfers NADH to the glycerol 3-phosphate, which is also permeable. Glycerol 3-phosphate is permeable to the inner mitochondrial membrane, and it reaches the inner mitochondrial membrane. So glycerol 3-phosphate, on reaching the inner mitochondrial membrane, it is converted back to DHAP, and it transfers the hydrogen atoms to the FADH2, and FADH2 enters complex 2 of ATC. Now complex 2. So the complex 2 receives FADH2 from this glycerol 3-phosphate, also from succinate, which is converted to fumarate with the help of succinate dehydrogenase enzyme. So FAD is converted to FADH2. So it enters complex 2 and it transfers electrons to ubiquinone. So this queen, our queen ubiquinone, receives electrons from complex 1 and complex 2. But complex 1 receives energy. It has, since it's placed high, it has some high potential energy. So with the help of this energy, it pumps protons to the intermembrane space. It pumps 4 protons to the intermembrane space, whereas complex 2 cannot pump the protons to the intermembrane space. So no proton pump. No proton is pumped to the intermembrane space by complex 2 because it is not getting sufficient energy. But it transfers the electrons to ubiquinone. Then comes the role for complex 3. So this is the complex 1, complex 2 and complex 3. So both 1 and 2 donates electrons to ubiquinone. And complex 4, 1 donates 4H plus to the intermembrane space. And ubiquinone transfers the electrons to the cytochrome B present in the complex 3. So complex 3 receives electrons from ubiquinone and it transfers the electrons to the mobile carrier cytochrome C, which transport electrons to complex 4. So complex 4 has cytochrome AA3. So these cytochromes, they are iron heme containing proteins. So heme is iron porphyrin, that is 1 iron in the center and 4 pyrrole rings, right? So this is the structure of a cytochrome. So this iron receives electrons. So iron in the oxidized form, the ferric, receives electrons and it is converted to the ferrous form in these complexes. Okay. And finally, the electrons is received by the oxygen present in the complex 4, which receives electrons. And first it changes to a reactive oxygen, which combines with the 2 hydrogen atoms and forms water. Thus, water is formed from the footsteps. So you see how amazing it is, the transfer of electrons. These reducing equivalents enter the complex 1 and 2 and which transfer the electrons. So each hydrogen atom contains 1 proton and 1 electron. So when hydrogen atoms are transferred, electrons are also transferred, and finally these electrons converts oxygen to water. So what happens to the proton which is pumped? So while transferring the electrons, the complex 1 and 3 gets energy and it pumps protons, 4 protons each to the intermembrane space, whereas complex 4 pumps 2 protons to the intermembrane space. So this is the oxidation part. Now we will cover the phosphorylation part. So the 4 complexes, complex 1, 2, 3 and 4. Complex 1 pumps 4 protons, complex 3 pumps 4 protons, complex 4 pumps 2 protons to the intermembrane space. Now the intermembrane space is rich in hydrogen atoms, the protons. So this creates a proton gradient or the electrochemical gradient. So these proton gradient enters this complex 5, which is the F4 subunit and the F1 subunit, F4 F1 complex, that is a complex 5. So F4 is the proton channel. So protons enter the F4 and F1 is the catalytic subunit which synthesizes the ATP. So F1 receives ADP. So the ADP from the cytoplasm enters with the help of one ADP-ATP transporter. There is one transporter which helps to transport ADP inside the inner mitochondrial membrane. So this receives phosphate and ATP is formed. Thus ATP is synthesized by the F1 subunit. So what exactly happens in this F1 subunit? So this is the FO unit which has a C protein disc which is a proton channel. FO is a proton channel, and this is the F1 subunit. It has 3 alpha, 3 beta, gamma, epsilon units, delta subunits. So the gamma unit acts as a bent axle. It rotates the beta subunits. Okay, so this beta subunit can exist in 3 forms, one at a time. It has a loose form, an open form, and a tight form. So this loose form receives the ADP. So ADP binds to the loose form. Then this undergoes 120-degree rotation. Okay, so now loose form will be here, open form will be here, and tight form will be here, right? So this loose form, now the ATP form comes to play. So T form is a tight form which tightly binds ADP. It tightly binds ADP, and ADP is phosphorylated to form ATP. And now again, by another rotation, the open form releases the ATP. So this is the binding change mechanism of ATP synthesis. Binding change mechanism of ATP synthesis. That is, the loose form binds the ADP on 120-degree rotation. The tight form tightly binds ADP, and the open form releases the ATP. Thus, ATP is synthesized by the beta subunit of FOF1 complex. Now we can discuss about the inhibitors of electron transport chain. So the complex 1, which is the complex 1? The NADH, coenzyme Q, oxidoreductase. So this complex 1, we know that it donates electrons to Q, the queen ubiquinone. So this electron transfer is blocked by the complex 1 inhibitors. Which are the complex 1 inhibitors? The barbiturates, amobarbital, then pyridine, then the fish poison rotenone. These are the complex 1 inhibitors which inhibit the transfer of electrons from complex 1 to ubiquinone, thus blocking the whole ATP synthesis. Now comes the complex 2 inhibitors. So complex 2 receives FADH2 from glycerol 3-phosphate, also from succinate to fumarate conversion, the succinate dehydrogenase. So this succinate to fumarate conversion is blocked by malonate, and the electron transfer from complex 2 to ubiquinone, that is blocked by carboxyl and TTFA, which is a chelating agent. So these are the complex 2 inhibitors, malonate, carboxyl and TTFA. Next comes the role of complex 3. Complex 3 is cytochrome C oxidoreductase. So it receives electrons from ubiquinone, which is transporting electron to cytochrome C, and it pumps 4 protons to the intermembrane space. So complex 3 inhibitors are British anti-Leucine and anti-mycin A. These are the complex 3 inhibitors which blocks the flow of electrons. Then comes the complex 4, the heme protein AA3. So cytochrome C donates electrons to the complex 4, and this is inhibited by hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide and cyanide. So these are the complex 4 inhibitors which prevents the transfer of electrons. So what happens in complex 4? The final acceptor of electrons is oxygen, which accepts electrons and it forms water. So this is blocked by these complex 4 inhibitors, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide and cyanide. So these are the complex 4 inhibitors. Now what are the inhibitors of oxidative phosphorylation? So oxidative phosphorylation, the ATP synthesis occurs in the FOF1 complex, right? So this is the FO and this is the F1. A toxin named oligomycin blocks the proton flow through the FO complex. So oligomycin is an inhibitor of oxidative phosphorylation, and we know that F1 subunit, the beta subunit, accepts the ADP with the help of there is one transporter, ADP ATP transporter, which transports ADP from the cytoplasm to the mitochondria, and ATP is taken back with the help of this transporter, that is adenine nucleotide transporter. And atractyloside blocks this transporter. So these are the inhibitors of oxidative phosphorylation. Atractyloside, which blocks the ADP ATP transporter, and oligomycin, which blocks the FO subunit. So oligomycin and atractyloside are the inhibitors of oxidative phosphorylation. Now we can discuss about the uncouplers. So what are these uncouplers? These uncouplers uncouple oxidation and phosphorylation. They uncouple oxidation and phosphorylation. That is, they allow oxidation to occur, but synthesis of ATP is blocked. Synthesis of ATP is blocked. That means they allow the proton transfer from complex 1, 3 and 4, so that oxidation that is occurring, so transfer of electrons is also occurring, but synthesis of ATP that is blocked. Okay, so uncouplers block synthesis of ADP. So what happens to these protons? Now this intermembrane space will be rich of these protons, right? So when uncouplers act, these protons will get leaked into the matrix. So high amount of H plus generates heat. So this generates heat. So uncouplers produce heat. So this is used physiologically. That is, thermogenin is a physiological uncoupler. Also thyroid hormone, thyroxine, in high doses are physiological uncouplers. They generate heat. So thermogenin is present in the brown adipose tissue, which is present in the interscapular fat. So it helps in generating heat, and is also used by the polar bears during hibernation. So they have to keep their body warm, right? So it is with the help of this thermogenin protein, which is a physiological uncoupler, which helps in generation of heat by the proton leak from the intermembrane space to the matrix. So these are the uncouplers in our body: the physiological uncouplers, thermogenin and thyroxine, and the chemical uncouplers 2,4-dinitrophenol and dinitrocresol. So these uncouplers allow oxidation to occur, but ATP synthesis is blocked. So that is in brief about electron transport chain. The four complexes: NADH, Q oxidoreductase, then FADH2 reductase, succinate FADH2 reductase, then cytochrome C oxidoreductase, the complex 3, and cytochrome C oxidase, complex 4, and our ATP complex, ATP synthesizing complex, FOF1 complex. So complex 1, 3 and 4 pumps 4 protons each to the intermembrane space. Complex 4 pumps 2 protons, and complex 4 is the final acceptor of electrons, which converts oxygen to water, and this proton which is pumped, so this electrochemical potential helps in the conversion of ADP to ATP. So this potential energy is converted to the mechanical energy of ATP. So this is the smallest molecular motor, mechanical energy, and which produces ATP, that is chemical energy. So energy is formed from one form, is transferred from one form to other form, and our body synthesize ATP, which is essential for our body. Hope this topic is clear for you. Thank you.